During World War II, 9 crops kept millions of families alive when grocery stores became empty buildings and supply lines became broken promises. These weren't the vegetables you see in modern gardens, they were survival crops, ugly, forgotten, and capable of producing food in conditions that would kill everything your neighbors are growing. One of these roots grows to 20 pounds from a single seed. Another survives temperatures that would freeze your car solid. A third tastes like oysters but grows in dirt. And all of them store for months without electricity, without canning, without any modern technology whatsoever. Your great-grandparents grew these crops. They knew the names. They saved the seeds. They passed the knowledge to their children. Then supermarkets decided what you should eat. Pretty vegetables replaced productive ones. Convenient crops replaced survival crops. The foods that could save your life were removed from seed catalogs and replaced with things that look nice but die when conditions get hard. Today, most gardeners have never heard of these 9 crops. They regrowing tomatoes and peppers, while their great-grandparents would have grown food that actually keeps families alive through crisis. When the next disruption hits, tomatoes won't save you. These crops will. In this video, I'm showing you 9 forgotten survival crops that fed families through the worst years of the 20th century. Crops you've probably never grown. Crops you've probably never heard of. Crops that could mean the difference between eating and starving when everything falls apart. Pay attention. This information could save your family. Number 1. Rutabaga. The British called it swede. Americans called it rutabaga. World War II historians call it the vegetable that won the war. When German U-boats cut supply lines to Britain, the government faced a terrifying math problem. Not enough food was reaching the island to feed the population. People were going to starve unless something changed immediately. The answer was rutabaga. This dense root vegetable produces more calories per square foot than almost any other crop suitable for British soil. It grows in cold, wet conditions that kill other vegetables. It stores for 6 months in nothing but a cool room, and it requires almost no skill to grow successfully. The British Ministry of Food launched a massive campaign promoting rutabaga. Recipes flooded newspapers. Growing instructions appeared on posters. The humble swede became a symbol of British survival and resistance. One rutabaga plant produces a root weighing 2 to 5 pounds. A small garden bed generates 50 to 100 pounds of dense, storable food. That's hundreds of thousands of calories from a few packets of seeds and minimal effort. The flavor is sweet and earthy, like a cross between cabbage and turnip, but denser and more satisfying. Roasted rutabaga becomes caramelized and rich. Mashed rutabaga substitutes for potatoes with fewer carbohydrates. Rutabaga soup stretches small amounts of meat into meals that feed crowds. Growing requires nothing special. Direct sow seeds in late spring or midsummer. Thin to 6 inches apart. Ignore completely until harvest. The plants tolerate poor soil, irregular watering, and total neglect. Harvest after frost. Light freezing converts starches to sugars, improving flavor dramatically. Store in a root cellar, basement, or any cool location. Properly stored rutabaga lasts until April or May. This is the crop that kept Britain alive when Hitler tried to starve them into submission. If it's not in your survival garden, you're not serious about food security. Number 2. Mangel wurzels. Here's a crop so productive, it seems fake. One seed produces 1 root. That root can weigh 20 pounds or more. A single row of mangel wurzels generates more food mass than most entire gardens. During both World Wars, mangel wurzels kept European livestock alive when commercial feed became unavailable. But here's what most people don't realize. Humans can eat them too. They sustained refugee populations when nothing else was available. The roots look like massive alien beets. Red, yellow, orange, or white depending on variety. They grow partially above ground, making harvest easy, and they store for 8 months or more in cool conditions. Nutritionally, mangel wurzels provide meaningful calories and carbohydrates. They're not as dense as potatoes, but the sheer volume compensates. 20 pounds of food from one seed changes the math of survival gardening completely. World War II farmers grew mangel wurzels as insurance. If other crops failed, the mangels still produced. If storage ran low, mangels filled the gap. If livestock needed feed, mangels kept animals alive through winter. Growing requires space but little skill. Direct sow seeds in spring. Thin to 12 inches apart, Let them grow until fall. Harvest before hard freeze. Store in any cool, humid location. The flavor is mild and slightly sweet. Young roots can be grated into salads. Mature roots cook like beets or turnips. Desperate times called for slicing them thin and frying them as survival chips. Modern seed catalogs rarely carry wurzels. The seed industry decided you don't need a crop this productive. But heirloom suppliers and European sources still offer seeds. One packet can produce hundreds of pounds of food. When survival matters more than appearance, wurzels deliver more food per seed than anything else you can plant. Number 3. Parsnips. Most root vegetables require harvest before the ground freezes. Parsnips break this rule completely. They store best in the ground they grew in, surviving temperatures that freeze soil solid. Available for harvest whenever you can dig them out. This storage method transformed World War II food security. Families planted parsnips knowing they could harvest fresh roots in January, February, even March. While other stored vegetables went soft or sprouted, parsnips stayed perfect in frozen ground. The flavor improves dramatically with frost. Freezing converts starches to sugars, making parsnips sweeter than carrots. The roots harvested in December taste completely different from the same roots harvested in September. One parsnip seed produces one root, but parsnip roots grow large, often over a pound each. A 20-foot row can produce 40 to 60 pounds of sweet, storable roots that improve while waiting in the ground. Nutritionally, parsnips provide substantial carbohydrates and calories. They're denser than carrots, sweeter than turnips, and more satisfying than most root vegetables. When winter calories matter, parsnips deliver. Growing requires patience. Parsnip seeds germinate slowly, sometimes taking 3 weeks to emerge, sow thickly and thin later because germination is unpredictable. Then ignore them completely until fall. The roots penetrate deep into soil, finding moisture and nutrients that shallow-rooted crops can't reach. This makes them drought-tolerant once established. Plant them, forget them, harvest them 6 months later. World War II families relied on parsnips for late winter fresh food. When stored vegetables ran out and nothing else grew, parsnips were still there, frozen in the ground, ready for the soup pot. Your garden should include parsnips because nothing else provides fresh root vegetables in February. The ground itself becomes your root cellar. No equipment needed, no processing required. Number 4. Leeks. When every other allium has frozen solid or rotted in storage, leeks are still standing in the garden, still alive, still edible, still providing fresh food when nothing else survives. Leeks tolerate temperatures that would kill every onion variety in existence. They've been harvested from gardens buried under snow. They've survived winters that killed fruit trees. The cold tolerance is almost supernatural. World War II families in Northern Europe considered leeks essential survival vegetables. While stored onions sprouted and shriveled by February, fresh leeks could still be dug from the garden. Real allium flavor in meals that desperately needed it. One leek plant produces one thick stalk, weighing half a pound or more. A row of 50 leeks provides 25 pounds of fresh onion family flavor. Available throughout winter, no storage concerns. The flavor is milder than onions but deeply savory. Leeks form the base of countless traditional soups and stews. They caramelize beautifully when roasted. They add depth to any dish that needs allium flavor without the harshness of raw onion. Growing leeks requires some technique, but rewards effort dramatically. Start seeds indoors or by transplants. Plant deeply, burying most of the stem. Hill soil around stalks as they grow to increase the white edible portion. Harvest by loosening soil with a fork and pulling the entire plant. Use the white and light green parts, compost the tough dark green tops, or save them for stock. World War II kitchens stretched meat and vegetables further with leeks. A few leeks transformed watery vegetable soup into something worth eating. When morale mattered as much as calories, leeks improved both. Your survival garden needs a crop that survives when survival gets hard. Leeks grow through conditions that kill everything else. That's not a feature, that's a requirement. Number 5. Celeriac. Imagine celery flavor that stores for 6 months without processing. That's celeriac, the ugly knobby root that delivers everything celery promises but celery can't actually provide. Regular celery is nearly impossible to store. It wilts in days. It requires constant moisture. It's one of the most perishable vegetables in any garden. For survival purposes, celery is useless. Celeriac solves every problem. The bulbous root stores for 6 months in cool conditions. It provides intense celery flavor for soups, stews, and salads. It requires no canning, no freezing, no electricity whatsoever. World War II families grew celeriac because they needed celery flavor but couldn't store celery. Oot cellars that kept potatoes and turnips perfect also kept celeriac perfect. 6 months of celery flavor from one fall harvest. One celeriac plant produces one root weighing 1 to 2 pounds. The roots look ugly, covered with knobs and rootlets, but beneath the surface lies dense, white flesh that tastes like concentrated celery. The culinary uses are endless. Slice thin for salads, roast with other root vegetables, mash alone or with potatoes. Add to any soup or stew that needs celery flavor. Grate raw for remoulade sauce. Growing celeriac requires patience. Seeds germinate slowly, and seedlings grow even slower. Start indoors very early, or by transplants. Plant in rich soil with consistent moisture. The wait is worth it. Nothing else provides shelf-stable celery flavor. When February soup needs depth, and your celery stalks rotted months ago, celeriac delivers exactly what you need. Number 6. Salsify. Here's a root vegetable that tastes like oysters, not vaguely oyster-like, not reminiscent of seafood. Actual oyster flavor from something that grows in your garden. Salsify earned the nickname oyster plant centuries ago because the flavor genuinely mimics shellfish. For landlocked populations during World War II, salsify provided seafood flavor that couldn't be obtained any other way. The plant looks like an ornamental grass with purple flowers. The roots grow 12 to 18 inches long, slender and tapered like white carrots. And the flavor, when properly prepared, is unlike any other vegetable you've tasted. World War II families grew salsify for variety as much as nutrition. When meals became monotonous repetitions of stored potatoes and turnips, salsify added something completely different. Mock oyster soup, salsify fritters, creamed salsify on toast. One salsify seed produces one root. The roots are slender, so yields per square foot are lower than other root vegetables. But the unique flavor justifies the space. Nothing else in your garden tastes like this. Growing salsify requires deep, loose soil and patience. Sow seeds directly in spring, thin to 3 inches apart. Wait until fall or even the following spring for harvest. Like parsnips, salsify can overwinter in the ground. The roots oxidize quickly when cut, turning brown like cut apples. Submerge in acidulated water immediately after peeling. Then cook by any method suitable for root vegetables. When you're eating stored food for months on end, unique flavors become survival factors. Salsify provides something nothing else can, that's worth growing, even if yields are modest. Number 7. Orac. 4,000 years ago, farmers grew orac as their primary leafy green. It survived drought that killed lettuce. It tolerated heat that made spinach bolt. It self-seeded so aggressively that one planting became permanent. Then spinach became fashionable, and orac was forgotten. During World War II, families rediscovered orac because it solved problems spinach couldn't. Summer gardens needed greens, but spinach died in June heat. Orac kept producing through July, August, and September, when nothing else would. The leaves taste similar to spinach, but milder, with a slight mineral note. Red varieties add color to salads and cooked dishes. Green varieties blend seamlessly with other greens. Both produce prolifically from late spring through hard frost. One orac plant can reach 6 feet tall if allowed to mature. But most gardeners harvest continuously, keeping plants at manageable heights. The constant harvest stimulates constant production. Cut it, and it grows back. Cut it again, and it grows back again. The self-seeding habit transforms orac from annual to permanent. Plants, allowed to flower drop thousands of seeds. Those seeds germinate next spring without any human intervention. After one planting, you'll have orac forever unless you actively remove it. World War II families let orac naturalize in their gardens. It became a reliable presence that required no work and no seed purchases. Free greens every summer from a crop that planted itself. Growing orac requires only scattering seeds in spring. Thin or transplant to desired spacing. Harvest outer leaves continuously. Let some plants flower and seed for next year's crop. That's the entire process. When grocery stores close and you need greens that survive summer heat, ORAC delivers 4,000 years of agriculture can't be wrong. Number 8. Perpetual spinach. Regular spinach gives you one harvest, then dies. Perpetual spinach gives you harvests for 2 to 3 years from a single planting. The name is accurate. The production is perpetual. This variety of chard was bred specifically for continuous harvest. Cut the outer leaves, and inner leaves replace them. Keep cutting all season, and the plant keeps producing all season. Then it survives winter and does it again next year. World War II families valued perpetual spinach because seed supplies were unreliable. You couldn't always get spinach seeds when you needed them, but perpetual spinach didn't need seeds after the first planting. It just kept growing year after year, asking nothing. The flavor is milder than true spinach, without the oxalic acid bite that some people dislike. The texture is slightly more substantial. The production is massively higher than any annual spinach variety. One perpetual spinach plant produces pounds of greens per year. A row of 10 plants provides more greens than most families can eat, and that row produces for years without replanting, without purchasing, without any dependency on seed supplies. Growing perpetual spinach is simple. Direct SOA or transplant in spring or fall. Space 8 inches apart. Begin harvesting outer leaves when plants are established. Never harvest more than half the plant at once. Winter protection varies by climate. In mild areas, plants produce year-round. In cold climates, heavy mulch protects crowns through winter. Spring regrowth is rapid once temperatures rise. When seed supplies become uncertain, perpetual crops become essential. Perpetual spinach eliminates the need to buy, start, and transplant new spinach every single year. Number 9. Sunflowers. Everyone knows sunflowers are pretty. Almost nobody knows they're a strategic survival crop that governments stockpiled during both world wars. Sunflower seeds contain over 500 calories per cup. They're approximately 20% protein. They store for years without processing, and they produce cooking oil when other fat sources become unavailable. World War II disrupted global oil supplies. Olive oil from the Mediterranean stopped flowing. Tropical oils from colonial territories became impossible to obtain. Governments promoted sunflower cultivation because the seeds could be pressed into cooking oil locally. One sunflower head contains hundreds of seeds. One plant produces 1 to 3 heads, depending on variety. A row of sunflowers generates pounds of high-calorie, high-protein seeds that store indefinitely in any cool, dry location. The seeds are edible, raw, roasted, or pressed for oil. Sunflower oil is stable for cooking, neutral in flavor, and produced with simple equipment. During World War II, families operated small hand presses to make cooking oil from homegrown sunflowers. Growing sunflowers is famously easy. Direct sow after last frost. Space 1 to 2 feet apart, depending on variety. Water occasionally. Wait for heads to droop and back of head to turn brown. Harvest dry and remove seeds by rubbing. The strategic value extends beyond food. Sunflower stalks can be burned for fuel. The plants can be used as temporary fencing or wind. The heads provide chicken feed in addition to human food. When you need calories, protein, and cooking oil from one crop, sunflowers deliver all three. That's why governments treated them as strategic resources during wartime. These 9 crops won't make your garden pretty. They won't impress your neighbors with exotic colors or trendy flavors. They'll keep your family alive when the trucks stop coming. Rutabaga won the war for Britain. Mangelwurzels produced 20 pounds from one seed. Parsnips stored in frozen ground until spring. Leeks survived temperatures that killed everything else. Celeriac provided 6 months of celery flavor. Salsify added variety when variety disappeared. Auroch grew when heat killed other greens. Perpetual spinach eliminated seed dependency. Sunflowers provided calories, protein, and oil from one plant. Your great-grandparents knew these crops. They grew them. They survived because of them. Then the seed industry decided you should buy pretty vegetables that die easily and require replanting every year. They removed the survival crops from catalogs. They erased the knowledge from education. They made you dependent on systems that will fail. The knowledge isn't lost. The seeds still exist. The crops still grow exactly as they grew 80 years ago. The only question is whether you plant them before you need them, or wish you had when it's too late. Start now, while seeds are available, while there's time to learn, while growing food is a choice instead of a necessity. Subscribe for more survival knowledge they don't want you to have. Share this with everyone who thinks grocery stores will always be there. Because they won't, and when they're not, these 9 crops will determine who eats and who doesn't. I'll see you in the next video.